Rich and I put our heads together and we thought we haven't done a video in quite some time. What's one that's going to be interesting for the 1HDFTE owners, particularly 100 series? Yeah? So we did a maintenance video. So this is purely intake manifold clean, adjusting the valve clearances, everything that goes along with that, before and after dyno results, purely for maintaining your car. If you own one of these, you're going to find it interesting. I suggest, spend the time, have a watch. If you like it, make sure you hit subscribe. Now the vehicle's on the dyno, Rich is going to set it up. There's a few things that he has a look at when he performs a dyno run and report. So we're going to have a chat with Rich in just a minute and see what he has to say. Now there's some telltale signs when one of these 1HDFTEs does need a little bit of TLC when it comes to intake manifold clean. And you can actually have a look just over here around that bolt. You can actually see weeping of oil. Now that oil is a mixture of EGR and crankcase ventilation. So exhaust gas recirculation, which is a build-up of carbon, and the crankcase ventilation, which is an oil vapor. Now that, when this intake manifold leaks, pushes past the intake manifold gasket where it bolts to the head, and it drips out here. It's pretty obvious to see, and it is a pretty good indication that we do have a leak, and it does need some cleaning up, some new gaskets on there. What were you saying about the exhaust system?
So with a standard exhaust on them, these make 10 pound. Just by changing the turbo back exhaust brings it up to 12, 13 pounds. So it's just something I look for before I run it up on the dyno, that if the boost is higher than standard, I know that's got an exhaust system on it.
Now you're picking up a boost reference.
Yep, so I'll grab the boost reference from here. One of the first indicators as well is a lot of people call up when their 1HDs are down on power. And that's simply because this hose here that deteriorates faster than anything on the car pops off that filter.
There you go. So there's a Rich's top tip right there. Before you pick up the phone, just have a look at that hose and see if it's deteriorated and popped off. And in fact, a lot of the back hoses deteriorate on these 1HDs.
Yeah, we won't do an intake clean without replacing the back hoses.
So that just gets done. All of the vacuum hoses related to the intake manifold get replaced.
Yep.
So, boost reference all set up.
Bringing the bed forward. Four-wheel drive dyno for a four-wheel drive. No drop and drive shafts.
So that's typically called the shit strap, yeah?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you're relying on it, you've probably shit yourself by the time it comes into place.
Well, and what else were we going to put in over here?
So we call this the sniffer, but it basically measures the AFR, so the air-fuel ratio. Gives us a really good indication of if the vehicle's rich, lean. I mean, that's the obvious things, but also gives us an indication from the start on whether we can suspect a partially blocked intake manifold or boost leaks. It's a good way for us to check, in its full capacity across all parameters.
So what you're trying? Yeah. So this wideband O2 sensor, correct, the information that the dyno gives you, yep, you're able to interpret that information. Go, hang on a second, intake manifold's blocked.
Correct.
Hang on a second, we've got a boost issue here.
Correct. But that comes with experience of having done so many of them. Like, you know what a factory AFR is, and you know what factory boost would be. And if any of those, tend to tip on the high or the low side, then it alerts you to what, potential issues could be.
Yeah, so it comes with experience as well. So not everyone could just grab a wideband O2 sensor, throw it in the back of their vehicle, drive it down the road and go, hang on a second, my intake manifold's leaking. Well, you could.
Plenty of people do.
Too many people do, and they've got no idea. I get phone calls about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, how have you measured it? It's the very first thing I say when anyone calls and says, my car's running rich. Perfect, how'd you measure it? Oh, I can smell it. I'm like, oh my gosh. You could smell lean, you see rich, okay? So just remember all of that. So there's a lot involved in, tuning up cars. We're here to educate you though, and I'm not here to pass judgment on people. And if you do call, I will educate you. I won't be smarty pants, because that gets no one anywhere. Now run us through just the first couple of steps that you're going to do here.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing I'm going to do is basically drive it on the dyno, make sure everything feels good, at a low speed to start with. Make sure that it's centered, squared, nothing's moving around. And one of the first things I'm going to do is set the gearing. So the gearing is where the dyno RPM lines up with the actual vehicle RPM. So if I'm doing 3,000 RPM in the car, it lines up with 3,000 RPM on the dyno. So I'm about to set the gearing.
So gearing's all done?
Gearing's all done. So what I did then was I set the vehicle, the dyno, to 100 kilometers an hour, and I referenced what the tacho said, which was 3,600 RPM. And then if you look at the screen, you can see that my RPM setup is 100 kilometers an hour.
Perfect.
Cool.
Even I picked up on something a bit odd then. I shouldn't sound so surprised. I'm watching this, I'm like, what is going on there? Haricho.
So a few indicators straight up is power. All right, 79 kilowatts. These make 90, 95 every day of the week with 33-inch tires on it. So I can tell it's down on power. Second thing is the AFR is really lean. All right, so what's causing the AFR to be lean? That means that it's not getting enough fuel. Now, from experience, I know that the fuel on this is controlled by boost. So the more boost, the more fuel. So let's have a look at the boost level. Like I said before, they make 10 pound standard and they make 12 pound with an exhaust on it. This made 8 pound. So I can tell you straight away that this has got an issue with its boost reference, which all indicate a blocked, semi-blocked intake manifold could be partially causing this issue. So it's going to be a good one to strip down and do some diagnostics on.
Yeah, so it's making 8 PSI. So this, for everyone playing at home, that's your boost reference down here. Yeah, that's your power there.
It's a flat 8.
Yeah. What should you see on a healthy one?
On 100 series, they go really rich on a standard, untouched 100 series, even before we tune or anything like that. They all finish off at about 19 or 1 in the top end. You know, where the boost does start to drop away. And in this case here, you can see.
Oh yeah.
That we're actually sitting about 21. So I'd normally expect that line, that red line, to be down somewhere around here. You know, by the time it was in the top end, which we're not seeing. So yeah, I'm going to go with it's done 350,000 Ks, hasn't got a catch can on it. You don't know the service history. So, I mean, 100,000 Ks on a diesel breathing back into the intake is a lot of Ks and a lot of carbon. So you can only imagine what it's like after 350,000.
So a good guess is what we're doing is going to be the right thing for this.
Correct. And if, you know, even if the intake isn't completely blocked or it's only partially blocked, it's good vehicle maintenance anyway, you know. Like, think about breathing through a straw as opposed to being able to breathe through your mouth, you know. Yeah,
well, that's what I talk about snorkels all the time, but that's a different story. So I'm going to check back in with Richo and the boys. Once we start actually working on it, pulling it down, what we do, what is involved in the intake manifold cleaner, adjusting the valve clearances. So there's a fair bit more information. Make sure you keep on watching this video. And also please subscribe and jump across to TikTok because I put daily shit up. It's actually weekly at the moment because I'm busy as shit, but there's shit that I put up. Go TikTok. Follow. Hey, bud.
Hey.
What are we doing?
Currently getting the crossover off, but looks like someone's had a go at the EGR already, and the nut isn't so much of a nut anymore.
A bit round?
A bit rounded, yeah. So we'll get out some of our fancy sockets and get the bad. All right, take the crossover pipe. So obviously we need to take the intake manifold off. First part of that's the airbox, and now we're going to pop the, this is all loose, so thought I'd cool you down while we take it off for the grand reveal, hey? As predicted, pretty nasty. A few other obvious things to look at here. The amount of oil that's dripping through here as well. So, you know, if oil can escape, you know what else can escape? A bit of air. So remember we mentioned on the dyno that it was down on boost pressure as well. So that won't be helping the cause. And if you have a look down in the intake there, you can see that it's definitely up there with one of the nastier ones. We're going to remove this dress trim on top of the valve cover, then pop the valve cover off, injector pipes, then we're on the home run to get the intake manifold off. We'll throw that in the chemical wash while we adjust the valve clearances. Intake manifold's off. Unfortunately, there's no glamorous way to clean the head like you can the intake in the chemical bath. So screwdrivers and some rags and some solvent and a bit of elbow grease and you get there in the end.
These old diesels love that though.
Absolutely love it, mate. As I said on the dyno, we were pretty sus on why the AFRs were the way they were and why the boost was the way it was. So we were thinking ahead and thinking it was already a boost leak. This essentially confirms it. That's the intake manifold gasket. That's cylinder number 6 up here. You can see it's blown out the gasket. They're a multi-layer steel gasket. You can see it's blown out both outers. The inner's looking worse for wear as well, but that would have definitely been shooting out a fair bit of air. In the right light, you can see the differences in where these come through and where it hasn't.
Yeah. That was that front cylinder,
That's
the one that I
front.
saw there, oil leaking down from.
Yeah. You can also see on the vehicle itself, and I'm sure that you've probably got some videos going up at the moment showing it, that the around that conduit at the back of the engine there, you can see that it looks really carbony like what it is. That's what happens when you get an intake manifold leak, is all the blow by, the crankcase ventilation that Paul was talking about earlier in the video does go through the intake, and it does come out as like a carbon dust onto out the intake manifold in between the gasket layers, and you can see that's another indication of a pretty nasty leak. The head's cleaned as best as we can. Now, when I took the injector pipes off, there's a few giveaways about the injector seals. Show you this pipe here, for example. That's not normal discoloration. You can see there's plenty of oil that's been pushed past the seal off the injector nozzle. The seals let go. One of the indicators was they knew about it was they don't come pre-packed with silicone on them like that. So they've tried to reseal it using silicone. Unfortunately, it's the inside here where you've got this little coil spring that leaks once that goes hard, and it loses its contact over that. The oil will just push through that, start leaking past it. It's just another, that also in itself will deteriorate, falls down onto the gasket and aids in the deterioration of the intake manifold gasket.
Yeah, so it's just a comparison here. That's a new one, that's an old one there. What are you doing there?
These are the new injector seals. So where the injector pipes, the high pressure pipes from the pump, go to the injector themselves. This is the seal that seals from the oil that's inside the valve cover on the head from leaking externally.
And you can say your line, and you can purchase this all on our website.
Oh, and you can purchase all of this on our website at dynomotive.com.au. All right, you've come down because I'm just finishing up doing the clearances. So like with all the 1HDs we do, they go really tight because as the engine wears, the valves pull up into the head a little bit, and then the clearances will go all out of whack, so they've all been readjusted now. 0.23 of a mil on the intake, 0.53 of a mil on the exhaust. But yeah, they're all done. It'll definitely make a difference to it. It's one of the things that gets overlooked as far as maintenance goes, and the importance of having the correct clearances. So make a big difference when we get it back on the dyno. All right, intake's all clean. You can have a look at it now. So, like I said, goes in a chemical bath, gets soaked. Just because of how heavily soiled this one was, it did actually take a fair few spins. So this is probably about 4 to 6 hours in the chemical trough. Then it comes out, we give it a good clean out by hand, hit it with a pressure washer, goes back into the chemical bath for one more pass, and then some silver paint to dress it up. Looks nice. Okay, so you can see, if you look down on the head there, some new intake manifold gaskets already fitted in place. The intake manifold's on, all the bolts are torqued up. So I think we showed in the video earlier that I've replaced all the injector nozzle seals.
Yep.
So we're moving on to refitting a brand new set of high pressure injector pipes.
Is there any particular order you do these in?
There is. So if you want to know the trick, it's even numbers first, then odd numbers, but the last is swapped. That's how I remember it. Probably makes no sense. So the order is 264 and 153. That's how they go.
There you go, Richo's top tip, giving away free IP right there for all you people doing this at home.
Valve cover's on, then the trim across the top of the valve cover, and then crossover pipe. But yeah, be on the dyno in the next hour or so. Crossover pipe gets cleaned the same way the intake manifold does. All the gaskets get resealed, all gets put back together off the car. It's much easier doing it this way. You bang it back on the car and put the airbox in, and that's it. Call it a day. Yes, to see where we end up after our intake clean. So reminder, we were at 78 kilowatts, 276 Newton meters of torque measured at 4 wheels. So let's see what the intake clean's done.
So before he's in green, blue is after. So before torque, like Richo said, is 276 Newton meters, 79.1 kilowatts, and after is 318 Newton meters and 95.2 kilowatts. It's an increase of 16 kilowatts and roughly 40 Newton meters of torque, all from doing some simple maintenance.